It was past midnight when my phone buzzed. At first, I thought it was just another work message, maybe my boss reminding me about tomorrow's meeting, but when I saw the name flashing on the screen, my heart dropped. Maya, my little sister. The one person I'd spent my whole life protecting, and the one person who always managed to break my heart in new ways. I opened the message. It was short, just 3 words. I'm pregnant again. For a moment, I couldn't breathe. I stared at the glowing screen, the words blurring as tears stung my eyes. My chest felt heavy, not from surprise, but from something worse. Exhaustion. Not again. Not this. Not her. I sank into the couch, my fingers trembling as memories came flooding back. The first time she'd told me she was pregnant. She was 19 then, scared, crying, clutching my hand like a child. And I'd promised her, "It's okay. I'll help you. We'll figure this out together." And we did. I raised that baby like my own. Then came the second one. Different father, same chaos. And again, I became the one who stayed up all night with crying babies, who worked extra shifts to buy diapers, who lied to my friends saying, "I don't mind. Family comes first." But now, this, a third time, I laughed, not out of humor, but out of disbelief. A small broken laugh that escaped before I could stop it, because deep down, I knew the truth. I wasn't angry at Maya, I was angry at myself, for always saying yes, for always cleaning up the mess, for letting her think there would always be someone to catch her. The phone buzzed again, a follow-up text. "Can I come stay with you for a while?" I looked at that message for a long time. The same question she'd asked before. The same plea. But something inside me was different now. This time, I whispered into the silence. "No, Maya. Not again." And for the first time in years. I meant it. When people look at me, they see a woman who has her life together. Steady job, small apartment, always dependable. But what they don't see is how I got here. They don't see the little girl who lost her parents at 16. They don't see the nights I spent trying to rock my crying sister to sleep, promising her we'd be okay, even when I didn't believe it myself. Maya was only 11 when our parents died, and from that day on, I stopped being her sister. I became her mother, her protector, her everything. I worked part-time after school, skipped college parties, took any job I could to keep the lights on, bills, groceries, rent, all on me. And through it all, I told myself it was worth it. That once Maya grew up, once she found her way, life would get easier. But that's the thing about hope. It can blind you. When she turned 19, Maya fell in love for the first time. He was older, charming, the kind of man who said all the right things, and I wanted to believe him too. I wanted to believe she'd finally found someone who'd treat her right. But 2 months later, she came home crying, shaking, holding a pregnancy test. That was the night I promised her, "You're not alone. I'll help you through this," and I did. I sold my car to pay for her baby things. I worked overtime. I took the night feeding so she could rest. When her boyfriend disappeared, I told her, "Don't worry, you have me." But one promise led to another. One sacrifice became a routine. Before I knew it, her mistakes became my life. People said I was strong. But strength feels different when it's forced on you. It doesn't feel like pride. It feels like prison. And every time Maya called me mom by accident, half joking, half true, it stung deeper than she knew. Because the truth was, I never chose this role, I just couldn't walk away. Not yet. 5 years later, nothing had changed. Different apartments, different boyfriends, different promises, but the same pattern. Maya was now 24, with 2 kids and a trail of chaos behind her. And me? I was still the one holding everything together. I'd wake up early, pack lunches, drop her kids at school before heading to my office job. Then, after work, I'd rush home to make dinner. For them, not me. Maya would show up hours later, smelling of cheap perfume and bad decisions, smiling like nothing was wrong. "Thanks, sis. You're a lifesaver," she'd say, every single time. And every single time, I'd nod, forcing a smile, swallowing the storm inside me. But lately, that storm was turning into something darker. I'd started noticing the small things, like how she always had new clothes, new nails, a new phone, while I was wearing the same pair of shoes I'd bought 3 years ago. She always had excuses. It was on sale. My friend paid for it. It's just a little treat. But deep down I knew. She wasn't struggling. She was comfortable. Because I made sure she was. And comfort can be dangerous. It makes people forget who's paying the price. Then came the night that changed everything. I was sitting at the kitchen table, helping her oldest with homework when Maya walked in. She looked nervous, but there was a strange glint in her eyes, the same one I'd seen before. She sat down, avoiding my gaze. "Lena, I need to tell you something." My heart dropped before she even said the words. "I'm pregnant." The room went quiet. Even the children stopped talking. I stared at her, hoping it was a joke. But it wasn't. I felt something inside me crack, a soundless snap that years of exhaustion had been building toward. This wasn't a mistake anymore. It was a cycle, and she wasn't trapped in it. I was. As she waited for me to respond, I realized something painfully clear. She didn't look scared this time. She looked expectant because she thought I'd fix it again. But for once, I wasn't sure I could. I wish I could say I stayed calm that night, that I took a deep breath, thought it through, and spoke with patience. But I didn't. The moment those words left her mouth, something inside me snapped. "Maya, how could you?" I shouted, my voice shaking. "After everything we've been through, after everything I've done for you." She flinched, but instead of guilt, I saw defiance in her eyes. "It just happened, Lena. I didn't plan this." I laughed bitterly. "You didn't plan the last one either. Or the one before that. Do you ever plan anything?" The words hung in the air like smoke. The kids peeked from the hallway, their wide eyes watching silently, sensing the storm. Maya's tone hardened. "You don't understand. You've never understood what it's like to feel unloved, to be left behind." That one cut deep, because I did understand. I'd been left behind too, by our parents, by life, by every dream I had to bury for her sake. "You think you're the only one who's suffered?" I said, voice trembling. "You had me, Maya. I gave up my 20s, my freedom, my peace so you could have a life. And you've thrown it away over and over." Her eyes filled with tears, but I didn't stop. "I paid your rent when you lied about losing your job. I watched your kids while you went out looking for work." My voice cracked. "And now you expect me to do it all again?" She bit her lip, avoiding my eyes. "I was going to tell you. I've been saving money." "I didn't want you to worry." "Saving money?" I repeated, stunned. "From what?" And then, like a slap to the face, the truth came out. She had been working part-time for months and hiding it. Hiding money. Going out. Pretending to struggle while I broke my back to keep her afloat. In that moment, betrayal didn't feel like a dagger. It felt like a quiet, cold realization that I'd been played by the one person I'd sworn to protect. I stared at her through the silence and whispered, "You promised me you'd change," and she had no words left. That night, after the argument, I sat alone in the kitchen. The clock ticked softly, the house silent except for the hum of the refrigerator. The anger had drained out of me, leaving only a deep, hollow ache. I looked around. The toys scattered on the floor, the dirty dishes in the sink, the bills stacked neatly in a pile with my name on them. All of it was mine. Every responsibility, every burden, every mistake that wasn't even mine to begin with, I had carried them. For her, and suddenly it hit me. I wasn't her savior. I was her excuse. The next morning, Maya came into the kitchen. Her eyes were puffy, her tone soft. "Lena, I'm sorry, okay? I didn't mean to lie. I just didn't want you to be disappointed." I didn't look up from my coffee. "I'm not disappointed, Maya. I'm done." She froze. "Done? What do you mean?" I turned to her, my voice calm but steady. "I mean, I can't do this anymore. I can't keep raising your kids. I can't keep cleaning up your mess. I can't be your parent." Her face twisted in disbelief. "You're just going to walk away? After everything?" "I'm not walking away," I said quietly. "I'm stepping back. You need to face what you've been avoiding all your life. Responsibility." Tears welled up in her eyes. "But I can't do this alone." I swallowed hard. Neither could I, but I did it anyway. The silence between us was heavy, full of years of unspoken truths. She wanted me to change my mind, to soften like I always did. But I didn't. That afternoon, I packed my things. I'd already found a smaller place closer to work. Just me. No extra rooms, no shared rent. Maya begged, pleaded, even cursed under her breath. But I stood firm. As I closed the door behind me, I heard her sobbing. For a moment, guilt clawed at my chest. But then, a strange peace followed. For the first time in years, I felt free. And for the first time, Maya was truly alone. Revenge doesn't always come in the form of payback. Sometimes it's silence. For years, I had been the voice that fixed, guided, and saved. Now I said nothing. I didn't answer her calls. I didn't send money. I didn't stop by to check on the kids. And that silence, that absence, was my revenge. The first week was the hardest. I'd wake up expecting a text from her. Something small like, "Can you pick up the kids?" Or, "Can you cover rent just this once?" But there was nothing, and the quiet was almost louder than the chaos used to be. At work, people noticed the difference in me. "You look lighter," a coworker said one afternoon. I smiled faintly. Maybe I finally am. Meanwhile, through mutual friends, I began to hear things. Maya's boyfriend had left when he found out about the pregnancy. The landlord was threatening eviction. The bills were stacking up. She was struggling, the way I once did. A part of me wanted to rush back, to hold her, to fix it all again. But I stopped myself, because this was the lesson I had failed to teach her every time I said yes. So, I let her face it alone. Weeks turned into months. There were whispers, people saying I was cruel, that I'd abandoned my sister. But they didn't know the years of sacrifice that came before this silence. They didn't know how many times I'd given up my happiness so she could have hers. I wasn't punishing her. I was freeing her and freeing myself. Then one night, I got a text not from Maya but from her eldest son, just 3 words. Simple and trembling, "Mom's crying again." For a moment, my resolve cracked. Tears filled my eyes and every instinct screamed to run back. But I whispered to myself, "Not yet, because love without boundaries isn't love at all, it's a cage," and I had finally stepped out of mine. It was almost 4 months before I heard her voice again. 4 long months of silence, and until that night. Phone buzzed around midnight. For a second, I almost ignored it. But something told me to look. Maya. Her name still made my heart ache. I hesitated, then answered. What I heard on the other end didn't sound like my sister. It was quieter, slower, a voice cracked open by reality. "Lena?" She whispered, "I'm sorry." The words hung in the air. For a moment, I couldn't speak. I just listened as she tried to catch her breath between sobs. "I messed everything up," she said. "You were right. About all of it. The bills, the lies, everything." Her voice broke, and I could hear a baby crying faintly in the background. The sound hit me right in the chest. "I thought I could do it alone," she continued. "But I can't. I don't know how you did it all those years. You were just a kid, and you still saved us." Tears filled my eyes, not from anger this time, but from something heavier. Understanding. Because in her words, I finally heard something I'd never heard before. Accountability. She wasn't asking for money. She wasn't asking for me to come fix everything. She was just apologizing. "I didn't know what you carried for me," she said softly. "I thought you were strong because you wanted to be. I never realized you had no choice." There was silence for a long time. Then I whispered, "Maya, I didn't stop loving you. I just needed to start loving myself too." She cried harder, and I felt my own tears fall freely. All the anger, guilt, and resentment seemed to dissolve into the night. We didn't promise to start over. We didn't fix everything. But for the first time, our conversation wasn't built on blame. It was built on truth. Before we hung up, she said quietly, "Thank you for letting me fall, Lena. I think I finally know how to stand now." And for the first time, I believed her. A few weeks after that phone call, I decided to visit her. Not because she asked. She didn't. But because something inside me said it was time. When I reached her apartment, I half expected to see the same chaos as before. Clutter everywhere. Noise, exhaustion, the usual storm. But what I saw instead stopped me cold. The place was small, quiet, but tidy. The dishes were done. The kids were sitting at a table drawing. And Maya, she looked tired, yes, but different. There was something in her eyes I hadn't seen in years. Determination. She smiled softly when she saw me, unsure whether to hug me or cry. I opened my arms first. For a long moment, we just held each other. No words, no apologies, just silent understanding. "I got a job," she said finally, her voice trembling with both pride and fear. "It's not much, but it's mine," I smiled. "That's all that matters," she laughed quietly. "You were right, you know. I kept waiting for someone to save me because I didn't believe I could save myself." I looked at her, really looked at her, not as the girl I'd raised, but as a woman finally taking control of her own story. That's when I realized something. For years, I thought being strong meant carrying her weight, but real strength meant letting her carry her own. We spent the afternoon together, cooking, talking, laughing in a way we hadn't in years. The kids showed me their drawings, one of them proudly saying, "Mom made us pancakes this morning." That simple sentence nearly broke me, in the best way possible. When I left that evening, Maya walked me to the door. "I don't expect you to trust me right away," she said softly. "But I want to earn it," I nodded. "You already started." As I walked away, the air felt lighter, the world quieter. For the first time in a long time, we were sisters again. Not a savior and a burden, not guilt and resentment, but equals learning how to love without losing ourselves. It's strange how silence, distance, and pain can sometimes do what years of love and patience couldn't. When I look back now, I don't see villains or victims, just two sisters. Both broken in their own ways, both trying to survive the only way they knew how. For so long, I thought love meant sacrifice, giving until there was nothing left of me. I wore my exhaustion like armor, believing that being the strong one was noble. But what I learned is that love without limits becomes a cage, for both people. Because when you keep saving someone, you stop them from learning how to save themselves. Maya had to fall to finally stand, and I had to walk away to finally breathe. Now when I visit, it's different. We talk, we laugh, we argue sometimes, like real sisters do. There's no more guilt in my heart when I leave her house. No more resentment when she calls, because I know she's standing on her own 2 feet now. Sometimes, late at night, I think about all the versions of myself I had to shed to get here. The caretaker, the protector, the quiet martyr, and I whisper to that girl I once was, "You did enough. If there's one thing I've learned, it's this. Love isn't about carrying someone forever. It's about teaching them to walk beside you. Family doesn't mean endless sacrifice. It means balance, the kind that comes from honesty, respect, and knowing when to let go." I used to believe letting go was cruel, but now, I see it for what it really is, an act of faith. Faith that the person you love will rise, grow, and maybe even surprise you. And Maya did. She still struggles sometimes, but she's trying. And that's more than I ever asked for. So when people say I gave up on her, I just smile because the truth is I didn't give up. I gave her back her life, and in doing so, I finally found my own, because love isn't sacrifice. It's balance. And sometimes the most loving thing you can do is finally let go.